Should I have stayed in? Should I have taken another contract or opening that wasn't in the most fucking haunted sector of America's woodlands? Should I go in? I asked myself a lot of questions as I took a drag of my cigarette. For reference, I never smoke. Barely, really. Lung cancer, coughing to death. It seems like a pretty bad ride, but I needed something to clear my head. And, well, better now than never. The nicotine buzz kind of helped me think clearly. Someone suggested that I could just wait it out till sunrise, go back to the estate and regroup, but with who? God knows where the others are. I tried signaling them, shooting in the air, flares. Fucking nothing. Someone also suggested that I just burn this sunken occult piece of shit home. But this is where the trail leads. Whatever the source of all of this is, wherever John is, it's down there. What is it with this forest and possessing structures in the boonies? Sorry, getting off track. Nicotine's made me a bit antsy. But also, no. This is it. No turning back. No retreating. There is no other option. I took stock of my supplies, running through the woods like I was being chased by a pack of fucking demons. I hit a lot of trees, took a lot of falls. What I'm getting at is, I lost a few mags and some other necessary things. As a result, I'm down to 8 mags for the AR, 2 for the 5.7, some flares, and 1 incendiary. This is going to be a long night. The only entrance that I was able to make out was a broken upstairs window. You know, the triangle rooftop bit? Rectangular window with 3 parts, kind of just jutting out. The glass was cracked and the wood was moldy. I don't know how long it's been here, but the house had definitely seen better days. The element of surprise was gone. They know I'm here. They know I'm coming. I cracked a green chem light. That's the military version of the glow stick, by the way. Except it lasts for like 12 hours. It's super fucking bright. I dropped it by the windowsill. If Isaac, Roseanne, or the others are coming, at least they'll have some guidance. I turned my rifle's tack light on, taking a few steps inside. Stepping off the small seat to the ledge of the window, I scanned the room, left, right, then down the center. It was small, kind of squarish, with, wait a second, blue walls, chipped paint, pink bedspread and quilt. I knew this room. I looked to the far end. Even the grains in the wooden boards on the far wall were the same. This was the kids' room that Isaac and I entered after the library. One of the drawings. I raised my rifle and shined the light where I knew the door was. It was broken down. Rusted brass hinges ripped right out of the wall. My mind thought back to that voice at the gate. My house. Whether it was mind games or not, I didn't really care. I didn't have time to. I stepped over broken holes in the floor, and I approached a door. A crushed cabinet we used to barricade it back in. Whatever Isaac and I found ourselves in caused the door to be jammed at a sort of diagonal angle. This meant that my 210-something ass, with at least 30 pounds of gear, had to squeeze up and over the gap. When I stumbled out into the hallway, I shined my light around. It was the exact same thing. Same age. Same brownish-gray color. The doors were staggered on either side, with one on the right side that was wide open, white tiles visible from where I was standing. The infirmary. So, I did what any good infantryman would do. I kicked down every single fucking door on my way there. The first one was an empty room. A single wooden chair sat in the middle. A single shackle bolted to the wall. Next room was a broken down rec room, a rotten pool table, a collapsed in bar top, tables with a demolished old TV. Basically, the next 4 rooms were nothing of note. Not a sound, not a whisper, not a cackle. Nothing. Just the sound of my own heartbeat and my boots hitting the floor, and the sound of wood cracking as I cleared each and every room. I reached the infirmary, pieing the corner. I charged inside, clearing all the dead space. Or, more like, where I knew there should be dead space. The metal operating table, the counters, the cabinets, filing cabinets, were all just gone. Just the rotted tiles, walls, and old boards. I was taken aback, only slightly. Then, I noticed where the table had been. A large scorch mark, ashes and burns that blackened the tiles around it. along with the outline of its wheels and frame on the floor and back wall. I stopped trying to figure out what the fuck all this meant. It was costing precious time. And right now, I was walking cleanly into the heart of enemy territory, without any opposition. Something caught my eye, though, in the ash. It was a piece of paper. Anything that got caught in that cone of dragon's breath should have been incinerated, destroyed. But there it was. Some ash fell off of it as I reached down to pick it up, but it was mostly untouched. There wasn't any drawing or anything, just a single message written in red crayon. Thank you. Then a laugh came from behind me. It was deep, like you turned the pitch all the way down. It felt cold. Malice-filled breath hit the back of my neck so close, it passed over the right of my collar of my jacket. I wasn't out of the literal woods yet. I spun around, hearing the sounds of bare feet slapping against the tile. I fired off several shots. I could hear the gunshots bouncing off the tile walls as the rounds tore through the wooden wall of the hallway. Whatever had targeted me was just a shadow barely turning the corner. I chased after it. My rifle shot up as I turned the corner. Nothing. I walked the halls, but more carefully this time. I knew that they could see me, feel me. Low chuckles and giggles came from beneath the floorboard. Distant footsteps sounded like they were running right on the other side of the wall or the ceiling. My light cut through the black void of the house like a hot knife. I didn't pry it from the wall. Suddenly, from my right, a set of footsteps sounding like they were coming from inside the wall charging at me. I fired off 2 rounds. Then, to my left, again, 2 more rounds. There you go with that trigger finger, Dwight. They're trying to waste my ammo, and I was playing their game. From behind me, a thunderous set of footsteps shook the fucking floor. I dropped to my knee as I turned, firing 3 rounds at... nothing. All I saw was my 5.56 tear up the wood of the distant cabinet and door. Dwight! John's voice snapped me from my nicotine buzz. John? Dwight! It sounded like he was close, but I heard the stories. How these things can imitate voices, hide inside of people's skins. I had to be careful. If Roseanne's hunch was right, he was here, and I needed to keep my trigger finger on a tight fucking leash. I followed the cries for help to a door not too far away, on the left side. I tried the handle. Locked. John, get away from the door. A kick didn't do it this time. I had to fire off yet another set of rounds. Half stumbling in, I saw a laundry room with no one in it. I looked everywhere, inside a small closet, inside some of the machines. Then, a knocking came from the other side of a chute. It was a metal pull chute, used to drop laundry to floors below. Or it should have. But this was a laundry room. Where else would this go? The question was for another time. My hand grasped the metal handle. I aimed my barrel inside as I pointed. Distant laughs still muffled through the floorboard. Nothing. I squinted as I stared down. For reference, I'm a big guy. Long reach, that kind of thing. My actual head was a few feet away from the chute. So, a giant fucking silver hand with blackened nails shot out and grabbed me by the front of my plate carrier. I was a little surprised. My nose and face smashed into the metal outline of the chute. I scrambled for my rifle. The thing was trying hard to pull me in, and I could feel my damn spine strain as it did it. My rifle was caught, crushed between me and the wall. My hand dropped down to my thigh to the drop holster. I pulled out my 5.7. I stuck the barrel of the hand cannon in and I let her rip. I couldn't see much, what with my body being stuck to the damn wall as a fucking ghoul tried to pull me down a literal rabbit hole, but I could hear distorted human-like screams from it as it finally let go. I stumbled back, fumbling as I threw my pistol in its holster. I fired off a few rounds into the wall. The voices were now up in arms. Giggles turned to belly laughs. Distant footsteps, now stomps, all sounding like they were just outside of the room. I charged out of the room and continued down the hallway. I eyed its end. Finally, a wooden door, moderately intact, just a few meters down. Get through the door, continue down, complete the mission. Or, at least, that was the plan. My foot going through one of the boards threw a wrench into that. I tried to pull my foot out, but the laughs just heightened. I heard the house around me groan. as the rest of the floor gave way. It could have been the work of whatever targeted me, or it could have been the fact that I was stomping through an old collapsing house made of wood, like some semi-stable structure. It wasn't. I slipped and my torso slammed into the floorboard in front of me. As I scrambled to grab onto something, my gloves prevented my fingers from digging in. I went into a free fall. The semi-lit hall turned into darkness, and I wondered, just for a second, where up even was before I could even think about bracing myself. Whatever wooden surface I slammed into on my left side told me that I had turned mid-flight. My left arm took the brunt of the fall. Pain shot right into my shoulder. The weight of the pack shifted and pulled me off once again. I fell face first this time, into an old matted moldy carpet. I fought through the pain to stand up as I got a hold of my rifle. I was finally able to see again. Though there was ambient light, a strange orange-like hue. I recognized it. The green carpet only backed my, albeit slightly disoriented theory as I scanned the area. The wooden surface I'd fallen into was in fact a bookshelf. I had fallen into the library, although it was bigger and a bit more upscale. However, the design of the bookshelf, the color of the floor, and all the lights were all the same. Before I could start piecing things together, a crash came from behind me. I aimed my rifle at the spot on the bookshelf wall, several novels falling off, as a set of silver fingers were poking through a protruding spot in it. Then another crash caused all the boards to push more and more forward. More books shook and fell off. Something was trying to break through. Through the continued laughs and giggles, I fired off several rounds into the wall. Instead of a roar or yell, I was answered with a sentence. Dwight. Unlike the deep, low-pitched yells and tones of the other ones, this one was strained, melodic, and echoey. I saw it look at me through the sizable hole it made in the wall. Its skin was a deeper gray rather than silver, and its eyes were completely white save for one black pupil.
"Hello, Dwight,"
it shouted, and another punch nearly caved in the wall as it struck again. I fired off more rounds, but as I pulled my finger for the fourth time, click. The boards on the wall started to give way as its arms extended through, ripping away pieces as it climbed through. I dropped the magazine, dragging a heavy metal mag from one of my belt's pouches. I slammed it in and released the bolt, only to come face to face with the Goliath that it was. It was bigger than me. Much bigger. Maybe nearly 7 feet in height. It was roided up. Bulging muscles looked like it was tearing its skin apart in some places.
"Stop fighting, Dwight."
Its hulkish appearance didn't take away from the fact that it perfectly articulated my name. My teeth gritted as I fired off another burst of rounds, but at such a close distance, it pushed my barrel aside, instead grabbing my shoulders and picking me up. It held me so close the stench was unbearable. It was like the smell of rotting and waterlogged death. It threw me into what I found out was a door. My pack was in the way, bracing my impact. Before I could zero in, a large copy of War and Peace struck my nose. I cringed. Between all the abuse to my face so far, I could smell the irony scent of my own blood pouring out of my nose. I think I was doubled over because it was able to reach over and grab my pack and using it to swing me, and it sent me flying through the door, right into a banister. The banister hit my rifle, which pushed into my front plate, which pushed into my chest, knocking the breath out of me. While I wheezed, I looked around. It was shockingly similar to the layout of the Kazimoth house. A staircase leading up to the right side of the room. Old rotted couches and furnitures were all set down below, with the set of double doors pushed open by a ton of root and dirt.
"It's almost over, Dwight."
The voice reminded me that I was here and now. I spun around, leaning my back against the banister and aimed my rifle, only to get a taste of my own assault pack as it was thrown, bouncing off my goddamn head. My Oakleys were crooked, splattered in my own spit and blood as I blinked to try to regain my vision. Again, I raised my rifle, only to have a gray muscular hand push it aside, and for a giant square foot to slam square into my chest, pushing me right through the banister and sailing onto the floor below. The next thing I remember was eating old couch fabric as I dove face first into it, completely collapsing inwards. I rolled over once onto my back before stopping. My head was spinning and a migraine was forming. I felt like I just got hit with a sack of bricks, one brick at a time. And to be honest, I kinda did. The thing laughed. My left hand wiped across my face, tossing away the now broken eye protection, as I saw it staring at me from the banister. Probably because it was confident, or because it knew my rifle had been doing jack shit. It took the stairs down. My AR-15 got caught underneath me on the fall, and I strained to pull it up. I aimed my optic on the thing and pulled the trigger. Several rounds exploded from the muzzle brake as it simply held up its arm, shielding its grotesque bald head as it walked down the stairs. Round 2, then 4, then 3, then click. I was out. Already? I barely had... No. The rifle jammed. I nearly pissed myself as I dropped the mag. I pulled back the charging handle, double fed, and boy oh boy was it one hell of a double feed. I finger fucked my gun trying to get the rounds out of the chamber. The thing must have known I was in trouble. It laughed as it vaulted the final banister, power walking toward me. I dropped my rifle and sat up. It was down, and it was just a couple meters away. I wasn't getting up. I wasn't unjamming it. I was fucked. I pulled my pistol from its holster and aimed for its neck, hoping a jugular shot would slow it down. My left arm ached, making control of my 5.7 pretty hard. I fired off shot after shot. The thing just stared at me, hairless head, wide eyes, mouth open as it reached for me. This was it. Or, at least, it would have been. If I did make some friends along the way. A set of plaid-sleeved arms wrapped around the beast's head, as its look of victory turned into one of surprise. I lowered my gun in confusion. Then, I saw who it was. "This is for my eye, you son of a bitch!" Isaac yelled as his shotgun was slung around his back. He pulled out a small 5-shot, stuck it right into the thing's eye. 3 rounds exploded into its right eye. It cried out in agony. A splash of black ooze splattered across its face. This was the time I needed. I turned over, both hands quickly grabbed my rifle. I reached in, unjamming that fucker fast as I've ever done. I worked the charging handle just to make sure. I slammed the magazine back in and racked around, sending it right home. I was on spaghetti legs as I stood up, but adrenaline surged right back through my body after its long hiatus. I squared up with the beast as it thrashed around and swung, trying to grab Isaac. "Isaac, get down!" I yelled as he looked over at me. The beast charged backwards, slamming into the wall, and causing Isaac to slam into it and fall off onto an end table. It scratched at its eye as it looked down at Isaac, then back to me. I flipped the selector switch, semi. Then I thought about it for a moment. Fuck it. Auto. A fast burst of rounds peppered the thing's chest. My injured offhand was in a battle to keep my weapon stable. It was woozy, like I had finally made a dent in it. It shook its head and I fired again. Another set of rounds tore up its chest, black ooze now starting to spill out as I advanced, wobbly, but confident. The script was now flipped. Another burst, and then another one. My magazine finally ran dry and I dropped it, slamming in another mag, releasing the bolt with an oh-so-fucking satisfying ka-chink. I saw Isaac was up now as well. He dropped his 5-shot and raised his boomstick. We were now laying into it. Full auto burst and then blasts of buckshot. Then another burst, and then another slug, tore into its chest. We were now laying into it. Full auto burst, then a blast of buckshot, then another burst, then a slug tore into its chest. We were battering it again and again and again and a fucking again. And finally, after the thing was covered in its own ooze, it slid down the wall, painting the wall in its own putrid blood. Its head tried to laugh one more time, before it went limp. There was a moment of silence, and I mean actual silent. The muffled laughing was now quiet. The footsteps were gone. All I could hear was my rifle dropping down as I let go, the floorboards creaking beneath my feet, and the heavy breathing of me and, of course, Isaac, I said, spitting out blood from my lips as I hobbled over. I guess Isaac had seen too many action movies because we, what is it called? Bro-shaked? Power-hugged? Holy shit, Sarge. You're looking a little, fucked. Well, I wasn't gonna say anything, but your beard's covered in your own blood. Isaac, where were you? How the fuck? He took off his trucker cap and ran his hands through his long, oily hair, and he scratched his scalp. After the fucking boogaloo kicked off, man, I'll be honest. I tried to keep up with you and Roseanne, but I lost y'all as soon as we hit the trees. Then, I lost the 2 Austrians. Germans? Russians? Anyway, I didn't know how long it had been, but after a while, I stopped and suddenly felt like I knew where to go. Then, I found your little breadcrumb. I cocked an eyebrow as Isaac pulled a green chem light out of his pocket. You were in the woods and just felt like you knew where to go? Isaac shrugged. He tossed the chem light behind him, into a small open kitchen area. He squatted down, collecting his pistol as he wiped black ooze from its barrel and cylinder. What I felt next was strange. It wasn't out loud. I knew it because only I reacted to it and Isaac didn't. It was the melodic voice of the microphone. From earlier when the Kazimoth house had been breached, except it was, well, supportive. Is supportive the right word? Well, it didn't sound like it wanted me dead. It just wanted my attention.
Dwight.
As it spoke, my migraine slowly faded away. I rubbed my forehead with my offhand, blinking my eyes. As I did, I noticed. It couldn't have been, but I saw it. It wasn't torn up or messy. It was more pink and quilted, the edge of the dress out of my corner. My hand shot to my rifle as I zeroed in on where it should have been. But, like always, it was gone. Instead, I saw an exact replica of where the hallway to the security room was. The security room wasn't there, but there was another doorway. The basement doorway. Isaac bolted to his feet, aiming his shotgun in one hand and his pistol in the other. What's up, Chief? You see something? I lowered my barrel as I knew the pathway ahead. The house was sunken into the ground, and all the voices came from below. We had to go down. Isaac pressed the barrel of his Benelli against the doorknob and let loose. Woods and bits of brass shot out from the inside of the door as we kicked it in. We were greeted by not a staircase leading us into the basement that we knew, but to a small elevator shaft. It was one of those small caged ones they used in mine shafts. Gray concrete walls lined the outside of it, as a lone flickering light illuminated the area. We didn't make a snappy quip or a funny moment of banter this time. Isaac and I just got in. We threw the gate door shut. We saw only one option on the metal button pad. Down. The thing was rocky, it shook and shuddered, and I honestly thought that it would just get out at any moment and send us plummeting to our doom. You couldn't pay me enough to look down the rickety cage floor. Fuck that. There was a reason I never went into airborne school. I just stared forward, watching the concrete walls pass us on the way down. The silence was broken by Isaac. So, what do you think's at the bottom, Dwight? I now realized that it had been a long time since he'd referred to me as anything other than Sarge, Commander, or Boss. But he continued. I bet there's an ancient eldritch god at the bottom. Cho'Gath, maybe? I sighed and squeezed the bridge of my nose. Even with the migraine gone, Isaac still never failed to one-up it. He shook his head, running his hand through his beard. Actually, no. Cho'Gaths don't really have minions. But it's gotta be something really demonic. I mean, did you see that roided son of a bitch up there? Why don't we just go ahead and skip a tier of command and just say it's Cthulhu, Isaac? He actually took my suggestion seriously, tisking as he shook his head. No, then why wouldn't we go after a more coastal area? We're in the middle of North America. The damn whole thing is a puzzle, really. What do you think? I told him, honestly, the only thing I could think of. I think whatever's causing all this is gonna die, by a lot of bullets and a lot of fire. Isaac cackled, and then the elevator finally reached down. My rifle shot up as Isaac pulled the cage open. Ahead was an operating room. Or like a mass surgical room, maybe an ER. More white, cracked, and smeared tiles lined the walls and the floors, as several dividing curtains created different sections. Through the flickering lights above, we could see IVs, beds, and different metal tables and cabinets in each of the sections. We could also hear footsteps. A quick flash of silver shot across the center aisle, as muffled laughing could be heard from another section, just meters ahead of us. What sounded like someone crawling on all fours could also be heard. This wasn't an ER. It was a chop shop. I pondered our options. Close quarters, what looks like a singular exit at the far end, easily passable walls made out of tarpaulin, several hostiles crawling around. Isaac. Yeah, boss? Follow my lead. He probably expected me to creep through to start clearing it section by section, but I knew that we were outnumbered, and I knew that the far exit was probably our only safe way forward. I flicked my rifle on auto and started to unleash hell into the room. My round tore through tarps, throwing around old papers, knocking over small rolling carts, and Isaac joined in, shooting across and creating a pretty hard havoc of his own, creating an intersecting X of death. I pulled my rifle back and held it high. Let's go! We ran through the center aisle. Whatever lurked in these bloodied, rusted tables and tarps were pissed. Hissing and human-like yells came from within. I targeted one with a burst of automatic fire. To our front, then to our front left. Isaac weaved throughout many torn-up tarps and knocked over tables, firing slugs left and right, behind and across. It was a strange approach, controlled chaotic violence. Even as they sounded like they were leaping, a blast of automatic fire and a wave of buckshot sent their devilish eyes and silver skin bolting back into cover. I kicked open the far door and dropped a magazine, slamming another one in. I was down to 5. Or was it maybe 4? I wasn't really counting. Isaac backed his way in after a series of triumphant blasts from his Benelli. He slammed the door shut, as well as several locking mechanisms as slams and bangs from the outside started up. He started to reload his weapon as I scanned again. And holy shit. Winding metal hallways with bolted metal walls, grated floors, and dim yellow LED lights hung above. Halls went left, some went right, some went off in diagonal angles. This was a fucking maze. Isaac stepped forward, turning left and gazing down one of the halls. I looked down at my azimuth watch. It pointed forward, then backward, then left, then right, then flickered once to each direction, then clockwise. No help there. The voice returned.
Dwight.
I looked forward. Nothing. Then the hallway leading off to my diagonal left. Nothing. It returned, sounding right.
Dwight.
I turned, spotting the pink and white frilled dress. But instead of nothing, she was actually there. Like really there. And looking healthy. Her hazel eyes stared back at me through black bangs. She had a much cleaner complexion, and her white dress looked pretty new. We maintained a tense stare down for what felt like hours, until I realized she was no threat. She would have done something by now, attacked in some way. Instead, she just pointed down the hallway. To the left side, there was a hallway breaking off leading in another direction. I looked back at her. She just turned back, locking eyes with me. Hey, you alright, Dwight? Isaac said, stepping forward alongside of me. I know where to go. I said bluntly as I raced forward. Isaac lagged behind, probably looking dumbfounded from how I spoke. You, what? How? No time. Too long. Too complicated. Just fucking trust me. I turned the corner, heading left. I saw her about 10 meters down, pointing to a hallway that led right. A right turn. Then I saw her again, pointing left. On the way, I saw signs above the doors. Botany plant, incinerator. All different facilities you'd definitely find in a compound. Finally, I took a left turn, and instead, saw her pointing to a small staircase leading down. Isaac caught up, sounding like he was kind of out of breath. A sign just like the others hung above the staircase. Incubation. Isaac wheezed and shook his head. He stood straight up. You know, anyone ever tell you you walk faster than most people run? His voice echoed through the empty halls. And that's when we heard it. Isaac? John. Hopefully, for real this time. Isaac and I called out as we stormed down the staircase, the sounds of heavy footsteps shaking and banging against the metal steps. We reached the bottom of the incubation lab. We found a series of vats, if that's what you want to call them. Gigantic plexiglass cylinders jutting up from the floor to metal caps connected to the ceiling, scattered all across the room, some of them covered in moss and grass and this weird black ooze. I gazed to the left, then to the right. John! A moment of silence before we heard a series of banging against one of the tubes, near the back right of the lab. My hand gripped the trigger well as we approached, praying that it was him, and that I didn't jump the gun and shoot him. But if it wasn't, I kept my rifle up. We both went around opposite sides of the vats, and that's when I thought I saw him, but saw it. I could barely focus on it, just looking at it with mad and water-filled eyes, and I shut them with pain. Looking like a wall of moss and static, yet I knew it was a man. Or at least shaped like a man. I backed off and hugged one of the vats. Isaac pressed on. What the fuck? Followed by a shotgun blast. My eyes widened. John! I turned the corner. Isaac missed the vat where I heard the banging coming from. But the man was gone. I saw him rubbing his eye and where it stood. A large patch of turf with vibrant weeds and ferns poked through the grated floor below us. Grass. I searched the sides of the vats and I saw a small handle latch on the side. I looked back to Isaac, who held his shotgun up, giving me a slow nod. I flipped up the latch and pulled it open, and I backed away. I gritted my teeth, prying my trigger finger away, saying fuck it all to the consequences. John stumbled forward from the moss-covered vat. His hands were green with grass stain, and he was coughing up black ooze. Kid! Isaac dropped his shotgun and got down to one knee. I let my rifle drop as well. He was alright. Although, it looked like a fucking forest was trying to overgrow him. Subsequently, and inside of him, too. However, apart from some dehydration and illness, he was fine. Alive. You two. He coughed up black ooze. I patted him on the back like he was one of my Joes trying to get over a 3-day weekend. You guys, you came. Isaac laughed and shook his head. Hell yeah, kid. We weren't gonna let you bite it. John looked over to me. Where's my dad? I stared at him, silently, thinking of everything Theodore and I had said to each other up until this point. Yeah, where was he? Your dad's fine. Don't worry about him right now. I scanned the room, spotting an entrance leading to the back left. No going back up with all those things up there. John, can you walk? The kid's subsequent hacking and coughing caused Isaac to pick him up and carry him in his arms. I looked around, scanning the hallway and leading the way. Or, more correctly, she led the way. A few more corners and halls and we reached one of the tiled rooms. Industrial lifts. It was a rectangular room with 2 large elevators. Isaac approached one as I approached the other. I scanned mine. It was old, rusted, with a button pad mounted on the wall. Hey, Dwight, this one leads up. I backed off as he beckoned me over. It was several white buttons, each with a different description. Labs, storage, basement, house. We can take this sucker back to the house, and then just kick all of the doors we need until we're above ground. Isaac turned back to John, who coughed up more black ooze. I breathed a sigh of relief. I should feel calm, finally. We found John and now we have our way out, but something was still resting in the pit of my stomach.
Dwight.
I turned to my left and saw her pointing at the other elevator. I walked over, barely hearing Isaac call out, Dwight! The other elevator had a simple keypad with one button, sub-level. Isaac exited the elevator and walked over to me. I must have looked like a zombie staring at the keypad. What's up, man? We gotta get going. Whatever the hell was back there, it'll be here soon. I shook my head. Take the elevator up to the surface, Isaac. He shook his head in disbelief. You gotta be kidding me, Dwight. I know we've gotten thrown around by some big guy, but you must be concussed. I exhaled. He wasn't gonna leave quietly. Isaac, whatever was back there wasn't the source, the origin of all these things. Everything happening here. He grew quiet as I crossed my arms and turned over to him. We saved John, yeah, but these things are still gonna come for him again, and for more people too. He tried to speak, but then just laughed out loud at his own disbelief. Dwight, you can't be serious. This is some Class A horror movie bullshit. Let's go. Isaac, listen to me. He was going to speak, but silenced himself. We leave here, we try to get the National Guard, the police. Who knows if this house will even still be here? You said it yourself, eldritch monsters. Horror movie bullshit. We're in neck deep with whatever this is, and we have a chance to end it. Whatever's at the bottom is the cause. There was a tense silence between us. He stared at me out of anger. I stared back, pleading for him to listen. I know how crazy I sounded, and still sound, but it's true. You get John and you get out of here. You make sure he, Roseanne, and the others are okay, and you go tell the whole fucking world what happened here. Alright, tell me, Dwight, where do you factor into this little plan? I looked back at the elevator, the lone button, the light that had long burnt out, but something told me it was more than working fine. It knows me. That thing said my name again. I started this. It said it itself. I poked it. I dragged everyone in. And now I'm gonna end it. Just me. Isaac shook his head. I'm not letting you go down there alone. I nodded. I know, but if you go with me, who's gonna take care of John and get him out of here? He bit his lower lip, looking back to the elevator behind him. As he turned back around, I held my hand out. You've been a good friend, Isaac. I've known you for just a couple of months, and you're as close to me as a brother in arms. The closest I've had since I got out. Isaac grabbed my hand, looking me in the eyes. I saw a mixture of despair and anger, but also courage. Go get him, Sergeant. I gave Isaac my 5.7, along with the last pistol mag. Some flares, too. We held a tense stare as his elevator made its way up, until they were gone. I was standing there, alone. My breath was shaky. The easy way out, the easy choice, was gone. Is gone. And now, here I am. I stepped back into the elevator. I haven't pushed the down button yet. No. I sat alongside the left wall. This is my last entry, I think. I think it'll be my last. I don't know. Whatever's causing all of this, the cryptic source is down there waiting for me. No more Vanguard roided up beast. No more creatures in the dark. Just a man sitting in an elevator, typing the last of this on 1 bar of Wi-Fi. It's 4 a.m. We've been out here a while. But I think it's about to come to a close. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Isaac will make an update. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I don't know what's to come next, but what I do know is that it's about to all come to an end. The forest is a mysterious place. Despite how much the world wants to deny it, dark, sinister shit lurks within it. Don't let Theodore Casimoth cover up what's happening here. Don't let this all be buried. If I don't stop what's been happening here, Theodore won't. I'm rambling. I'm sorry. It's a lot less funny this time. But not a lot less important. This should be the end. Or not. It's been an honor fighting with you, Roseanne, Isaac, Gareth, Merkel. And for you, listening to this. Don't forget what happened here. Don't let everything we've done be done for nothing. Should I finish this or not? The truth cannot be buried. This is Dwight Nolan, the sole member of the Casimoth security team, signing off. I really hope I'll be back. I would like to thank all of the lovely and amazing patrons currently listed on screen right now. Dan R, Chaos X, JY, Pyromancer, Hayden MH, Ethan A, Daniel H, Maximilian Charles P, Go Cute Puppy LLC, Young Sykes, and Dark Side of the Bear. And a big shout out to all the Object Class Safe people. Thank you all so much.